No, we're in
All set?
LDC audit finance. A little bit over on.
Okay, I
IDA,
just
we're
want to
jumping
make
into
sure it
LDC.
wasn't, I
Nope, you're all
didn't make
good.
sure I didn't miss anything.
You should know. And then we'll jump into the governance.
Good afternoon. I would like to call to order the Audit and Finance Committee meeting of the Broome County Local Development Corporation. First item of business is to accept the transcript from the August 31st, 2022 committee meeting. We've all had a chance to review those minutes. Look for a motion to approve.
So moved.
Okay. Second?
Second.
All in favor?
All right.
Now the portion of the meeting for public comment. If anyone wishes to speak to the committee, please state your name and address for the record and limit your comments to 5 minutes. Being none, we will now move to the next order of new business. And number 4, review, discussion, recommendation of the 2022 audit of the Broome County Local Development Corporation conducted by Encero and Company CPS LLP. Stacy.
Okay, good morning. It's my pleasure to introduce Evan Cleveland with Encero and Company, who has performed and provided a preliminary audit of the Broome County Local Development Corporation. In addition, as part of his presentation, he will also present on the single audit that was a requirement of the LDC receiving American Rescue Plan Act or ARPA funds from the county. So that's also included in the presentation. So Evan, I will turn it over to you.
Great, thank you. So I'm back to the executive summary on page 1. No, you guys have a lot of things in front of you.
Okay, yes, this one.
Bless you. Thank you.
So back at the top of page 1, we're issuing a modified opinion on the LDC's financial statements, otherwise known as a clean opinion. It's the best opinion that you can get, and your assets, liabilities, net position, revenues, and expenses are all clearly stated in all material respects. Because we perform the audit under government auditing standards, we also issue a report on internal control and compliance and other matters. That report identified no instances of non-compliance, no material internal control weaknesses. Because the Local Development Corporation expended over $750,000 in federal awards, we perform a single audit and issue a uniform guidance report on compliance for each major federal program. So that audit identified no instances of non-compliance, no material internal control weaknesses. We also assisted in preparing the schedule of expenditures of federal awards. So that reports $6.2 million in federal expenses for the Local Development Corp. There's $5.8 million of the state and local fiscal recovery fund, which was part of the American Rescue Plan passed through the county, and then there was about $350,000 in community development block grant expenditures. So we tested the state and local fiscal recovery fund, and again, no issues regarding our audit testing. Page 2 dives into the communication letter again. It's very similar to the one with the IDA. The Local Development Corp also implemented government accounting standards update number 87 regarding leases. It just had no impact on the entity at all, whereas it did for the IDA. There were no comments of concern regarding difficulties in performing the audit, no corrected or uncorrected misstatements. We had no disagreements with management. Related to that audit, we will also obtain a management representation letter, which says that we've been provided with everything that we needed to perform the audit. Nothing would change the unmodified opinion we've rendered. There were no consultations with other independent accountants, no other audit findings or issues or other matters to communicate. Other matters is a little bit different for the Local Development Corp because it lists the schedule of expenditures of federal awards, and we opine on that and an unmodified opinion regarding that. We also issue a management comment letter. very similar to the one for the IDA. No comments, concern to communicate on that letter. Page 3, and I'll point you to the bottom, which has local development corp. Information, so total assets are 6.4 million. We'll see your cash and cash equivalents is up to 5.4 million, and a little over 5 million is unspent ARPA funds passed through from the county. Accounts receivable. Accounts receivable is up significantly, so about $738,000 that was due from the town of Union regarding their part in one of the projects that was undertaken. Property held for resale, that's new this year, that was 4301 Watson Boulevard. And your total liabilities were 5.7 million, so a lot of that is your unspent ARPA funds back from the county, so you won't recognize the revenue until you spend the funds, so you have $5.7 million sitting and waiting to be spent. And your unrestricted net position was 714,000. That was due to a slight reduction due to expenses over revenues. So we'll get to on the next page. You also see significant activity this year for local development corp as well. So I'll point you to the bottom of page 4. Total revenues were 6.5 million. Most of that was 6.2 million in government grants. So it was 5.7 million in ARPA funds, $348,000 in CDBG Community Development Block Grant. And other income that's up a lot that was related to in-kind contributions that the IDA performs for the local development corp. So a lot more activity related to this $6.2 million in expenses. So about $70,000 more donated to the local development corp. So total expenses were 6.5 million. You see the grant expense mirrors the governmental grants revenue of 6.2 million. Your general administrative is up slightly. There was a Leadership Alliance marketing expenses, about 52,000. And then your in-kind expenses are up 78,000 due to the additional time spent related to the state and local fiscal recovery fund. And your other expenses are 401 Watson Boulevard expenses related to the property. All that resulted in a reduction in that position of $28,000. Any questions on the local development corp numbers so far before we dive into the main financial report? All right. So I'll skip ahead to the bound booklet and I will go to page 7, which is the statement of cash flows. So we're going to go over this through the executive summary. The local development corp hasn't really had a ton of cash flow activity until this year, which you'll see on page 7. Your net cash provided from operating activities was a little over 5 million. So a lot of that is within your unearned revenue. So that'll get recognized as you spend the ARPA funds. So you see you received 11.2 million in governmental grants and paid 6.3 million to vendors related to governmental grants. And then you have the purchase of property held for resale of 260,000. All this results in a positive change in cash and cash equivalents of a little over 5 million, which most of it is your unearned revenue. And I will skip ahead to page 9. So regarding the new accounting standards, the Development Corporation did implement BCIDA 87. It had no impact on financial statements because there were no notices that existed with the entity. And then we point out the future accounting standard change, which is 96 subscription-based information technology arrangements, which we also don't expect to have an impact on the local development corp. Page 10. So describes cash and cash equivalents, and note 2 had $6.6 million in bank balances, all that covered by FDIC and collateral. Note 3 is new this year related to your property held for resale. So that was your Watson Boulevard property. And note 5, we added another paragraph to the bottom, which states that you were the subrecipient of coronavirus state and local fiscal recovery funds from the county, as well as community development block grants. That you earned and expended 6.2 million, and you have 5.7 million in unearned revenue at the end of the year. Page 11 is your schedule of indebtedness. Start of the year at 323 million, end of the year at 321 million. So the development corporation this is not reported as a liability, acts as a conduit between parties. The next few pages are the independent auditors report on internal control and financial reporting. So this letter again had no items to communicate, no non-compliance or material internal control weaknesses. In the next report, this is the new report on compliance for each major federal program. So we are issuing a non-modified opinion on your federal awards, and then additional language regarding management's responsibilities, our responsibilities, and then report on internal control for compliance, which identifies no material internal control weaknesses or non-compliance regarding our single audit. Page 17, this is your schedule of expenditures of federal awards. So you have your coronavirus state and local fiscal recovery funds, 5.8 million expended. And then your community development block grant, almost 350,000. Both of these are passed through Broome County. And with a total of 6.2 million. Page 18 is the notes to the schedule of expenditures of federal awards, just describes basis of presentation, basis of accounting, whether or not you use an indirect cost rate. That there were no subrecipients or matching costs regarding the program. Page 19, this is the schedule of findings and adjusted costs. So this is also new this year. It's a lot like the executive summary, provides a snapshot of all the audit results. So unmodified opinion on the financial statements and federal awards, no material weaknesses, significant deficiencies, or non-compliance. At the bottom, the program that we audited, the ARPA funds, and that you don't qualify as a low risk auditee. How you do qualify for that is you need 2 single audits in a row and file on time with the federal audit clearinghouse. So if it's your first time single audit, you are not low risk. That's why it says that. And then no financial statement findings or federal award findings or question cost at the bottom of the page. So overall, both audits went very well, even with us testing $6.3 million in federal awards. There was a lot more documentation than we requested, and it was all very easy for us to look through. So we greatly appreciate the efforts of Stacy, Nina, and Teresa, and the rest of the team for making this as easy as possible for us.
Thank you, Evan. Again, I just want to acknowledge Gina, a great person. Teresa's work on managing ARPA, which is something in and of itself. So yeah, we're very lucky to have both of them.
Hearing none, I'll look for a recommendation to the full board to accept the audit as presented. Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
I won't try to adjourn the meeting. I promise. Good last
Trying to
time.
rush it through. No, I like it. Number 5, review, discussion, recommendation of the adoption of the Broome County Local Development Corporation's investment and deposit policy, the purchasing policy, the property acquisition guidelines, and the property disposition guidelines with no changes. Natalie?
Thank you, Dan. This is an annual requirement of the authority's budget office that the agency review its financial policies every year and either modify those policies or recommend that they be reapproved for the following year as is. The staff has reviewed the mentioned policies and recommends that they be accepted with no changes.
Question? For recommendation to read out to the full board? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Number 6, review, discussion, recommendation of the revised Broome County Local Development Corporation's internal controls and financial accountability policy, a copy of which is attached hereto as Exhibit A. Please.
Yes, so we are requesting some modifications to this policy. On the first page of it, which says Exhibit A. Under B expenditures, we're requesting an increase in the amount requiring 2 signatures from $2,500 to $5,000. In addition, adding the Director of Operations to be a signer on those, in addition to a second signer. And again, a monthly report of all expenditures under that $5,000 mark will be electronically submitted to the board. Under C, that is simply an update. We have changed the title to Finance and HR Specialist, so that red line does just address that. Under D, this is a new item. We are working with NBT Bank to set up wire transferring for payments out. We currently can accept wire transfers, but we cannot make those. As such, all wire transfers will require signatures from the executive director or director of operations, as well as a board officer. And then on E, again, it's just an update of the position title. And then on the second page, it's the same update.
It should be crossed out, not underlined.
If there's any questions on those?
Thank you. For a recommendation to the full board, the revised controls. Second. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. And the old business. Motion for adjournment is in order.
Second. All right.